Welcome, everybody, to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. This is such a special occasion. We have our new amazing friend, Matt Kahn, joining us. So thank you so much, Matt, for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. Yes. We could not be more excited about this or love you more. So This is a little dream come true.
Yeah, it already feels
thank you for coming.
Already feels like we've got a great new friend. So to start this off, let's all dive into the heart together to celebrate this new friendship, and for our collaborative who's doing such a great job going into the heart. So if everybody could focus your attention in the area of your heart and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Try a pace of 5 seconds on the in-breath, 5 seconds on the exhale, in and out through the heart. We'll just do this for a minute. Now, as you're breathing in and out through your heart, I want you to think about a moment in your life that you're truly grateful for. It could be any moment, something that happened recently, or something from a long time ago. It could be a big moment, a small moment. But whatever it is, whatever moment you're grateful for, just be in that moment now as you continue to breathe in and out through your heart. And just see what you saw, feel what you felt, hear what you heard, and just be there now. And turn that gratitude all the way up as you breathe in and out through your heart.
And next, still breathing in and out of your heart, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Think about and feel into something that you really appreciate. It could be a person, it could be something that someone did, it could be a pet, it could be a place that you love. Really turn up that experience of appreciation in your body as you're breathing in and out of your heart. Smile and think of how much you really appreciate this thing or this person or this event. And now, from the state of heart coherence, Matt is going to lead us in some affirmations. And you can continue that same breathing pattern, breathing in and out of your heart, imagining your breath is flowing in and out.
And whether you're just listening to the sound of my voice or repeating each one after I say it, either listen or repeat after me. Gratitude is divinity remembering itself. Gratitude is divinity remembering itself. A few more times. Gratitude is divinity remembering itself. One more time. Gratitude is divinity remembering itself. And we'll offer one more affirmation and we'll say it a few times. I am what I appreciate. 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 And then the two back to back. Gratitude is divinity remembering itself. I am what I appreciate. And then lastly, to bring them together as one statement. If gratitude is divinity remembering itself, then I am what I appreciate. If gratitude is divinity remembering itself, then I am what I appreciate. If gratitude is divinity remembering itself, then I am what I appreciate. One more time. One more time for the Heart Coherence Collective. If gratitude is divinity remembering itself, then I am what I appreciate.
Mm. Gratitude is divinity remembering itself, and I am what I appreciate.
That's right.
Thank you so much, brother, for joining us in that.
That was fun.
And with that, we're going to have Aaliyah read your bio.
Yeah.
That I just got so emotional from that, so I'm going to try to redirect into reading this. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Matt Kahn is the author of the best-selling books Whatever Arises, Love That, Everything Is Here to Help You, and The Universe Always Has a Plan, and his upcoming book, All for Love, The Transformative Power of Holding Space. His books have been translated into more than a dozen different languages around the world. His second book, Everything Is Here to Help You, was featured in the Be Kind box by Ellen DeGeneres. In 2020, Matt was named as one of the 100 most spiritually influential living people in the world by Watkins Magazine. He is a spiritual teacher and highly attuned empathetic healer who has become a YouTube sensation with his healing and often humorous videos. Universally known as the I Love You guy, more than 20 million YouTube channel viewers are finding comfort, inspiration, and relief from the challenges of daily life through his intuitive updates and helpful, uplifting, heart-centered messages. When the world gets crazy, help is here, one I love you at a time.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here and for doing that heart coherence affirmation sequence. It just feels like a dream that you're here with us. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm so honored to collaborate with you both, and anytime that we can add more love to love and support the liberation of all beings. I mean, what a dream come true this is for me as well. So thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and as Leah was reading your bio, she mentioned heart-centered twice. So it's really meaningful to Leah and I how heart-centered you are, and it was one of the reasons we're so excited to have you on. So I thought it would be fitting to just get your take on what it means to be heart-centered and live a heart-centered life, and maybe, are there any practices you have to maintain that heart space?
Absolutely. Well, when I hear the word heart-centered, because I answer every question differently, I think heart-centered is the opposite of heart-armored. And then most people walk around with their heart armored and guarded. And of course, you want to get to know people. You want to have boundaries. You want to make sure that you're letting in people that are trustworthy and who will treat your heart with care and respect. But I think sometimes in today's day and age, we tend to treat people we know a certain way, and we tend to treat people we don't know a certain way. And I think that there's a way that we can still be protective of our hearts, and we can still be, grounded adults, but we don't have to push people away. We certainly don't have to treat people the way we were mistreated when we were younger or at whatever age. And that I think that what we're learning in this world is that being closed off doesn't offer you more protection than being heart-centered. And that by being closed off in your heart or hiding in your mind or being defensive actually puts you at a greater risk to lose or not be aware of all the incredible experiences that come with being heart-centered. And so I think through the eyes of fear, for example, we think of all the things we're afraid to lose or what we have to protect. But I think the real question that's really interesting is how much are we already losing by living with our hearts shut off? And what I think is really interesting about living with our hearts shut off is that living with your heart shut off doesn't necessarily mean that you're choosing the mind over the heart, But I think that living with your heart closed is a way of keeping your mind separate from your heart. And that when we're heart centered, our hearts and our minds actually work in a very interdependent way. The mind functions more flawlessly when balanced with heart, and the heart tends to be very receptive and yet able to take its feedback intelligently when balanced with mind. And so maybe the intention of our conversation today is being open-hearted is actually the balance of mind and heart, not choosing one over the other.
I could not love that more. And that was so well said. And really, this collaborative is centered around the heart.
Yeah.
And really, there's a way in which if you can get into a coherent heart state, your heart sends more messages to your brain than your brain to your heart.
That's right.
So the question is, we obviously have these practices to help us, but the question is, how do you de-armor your heart? Big question.
That's a great question. My goodness, what a great question. Well, I think one of the greatest ways we de-armor our heart is that we enter into a relationship of engagement with the heart. Meaning, what are the ways in which you wanted someone to talk to you when you were younger? Can that be the way you talk to your heart? What were the ways in which you were neglected when you were younger? Can you show your heart and your innocence that kind of attentiveness and presence? And so I think really de-armoring our heart begins with, may I begin to treat myself the way I've always wanted to be treated? And then it can become, may I be a course corrective experience for myself to erase all the memories of all those that came before me. And then the deeper question becomes, can I start to notice how good it feels to treat other people the way I haven't been treated, or to treat people the way I want to be treated, instead of just engaging in this moment with people and waiting for people to match me or give me what I think I'm giving them. Really unarmoring your heart is really deciding, I'm going to be the one that gives to myself either what I lacked or didn't get enough of, so that I hold nothing over anyone else's head, because I'm aware that just like my journey of suffering and how much I'm on a healing journey resolving, everyone is resolving their healing journey. And if I take it upon myself to find wholeness in myself, to give myself the attention, the validation, the acceptance, the praise, and the love that I'm hoping other people will give me, that I'm actually entering into a moment with less expectations, and I'm able to see where people are at versus where I feel their potential could be. And I start relating with the clarity of reality, because reality is what we see clearly when we enter into a moment as the embodiment of our wholeness. And the way we become whole is by loving ourselves more, not less. And when we come into a state of wholeness and then we interact with people, then we really get to see what the relationship could be. And we're able to, again, act from that space of clarity, because we're meeting the moment in heart-centered wholeness.
I absolutely love that. And would you possibly guide us into heart to begin that conversation with our heart? I felt like that's what I was supposed to ask you.
No, I love that. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. So let's, and I have an idea. Okay. So let's just, if we put our hands on our hearts, and what I like to teach, because, a lot of times people have heard my teachings before, and I'd lead the I love you meditation, which is good. But I think the most overlooked part of self-love is interaction. Because your inner child will feel when you're talking to it like trying to put together a table from IKEA. And if it feels like you're trying to talk to your heart because you're trying to do the Matt Kahn technique too well, or you're trying to prove what kind of light you are, your inner child will hate that.
Yeah.
And your inner child will put on a scary mask and become the shadow and try to scare you into being normal. So what we have to do is be authentic and connect with ourselves. And one of the best tips on how to relate to yourself in a heart-centered way is that everything that arises that seems painful that you wish you had less time experiencing, or that makes your innocence feel uncomfortable or challenged, there's some gift in each of those things that we bring to our innocence attention. For example, let's say you're feeling fear, and you say to your heart, instead of trying to be the inner life coach trying to correct your innocence, which your innocence hates, what if you said to the fear, thank you for letting me know how you feel. Thank you for sharing your secrets with me. This means you must trust me. And I love being a trusted, valued person in your life. Rather than saying, hey, fear, here's what I want you to do for me, maybe the question of heart-centeredness is, hey, fear, what can I do to give you a better experience of me? And what I like to teach people how to do, because the way we unravel fear, for example, is we serve it. Most people hear that and think that means you're aligning with the beliefs of fear. But we have to understand that fear is only as scary as the part within you that begs for love, but is simultaneously afraid that it will be rejected if it asks for it, and it doesn't even know if it's worthy enough to receive it. So how does a part that wants love, is petrified of being rejected if it asks for it, and doesn't even believe it's worthy enough to receive it, how does it get what it needs? It dresses up as something either with a problem, or it dresses up as something scary to get the attention it's afraid of asking from you. And so we say to this part, I see you. Thank you for showing me your most vulnerable parts. Thank you for showing me what you're afraid other people will reject. Thank you for sharing your secrets with me. It takes a lot of courage to be this open. I will not correct you. I will love you. Thank you, fear, for being here. It is you that I cherish. Now, who the hell could say I cherish fear? Only love. So when I'm teaching love coherence, I'm teaching love as love is in sovereign, heart-centered relationship with everything, even those things that are not in heart-centered relationship with love. And love doesn't care, because love is too busy loving. Love says, I love you, fear. And fear says, I'm not sure how I feel. And love says, I love you, fear. Because that's how radical love is. Love's not waiting to find a dance partner that knows the choreography well. Love just loves. And when we're loving and waiting for feedback, when we're loving and waiting for a reaction, we're not really loving, we're negotiating. Love is not a negotiation. Love is an act of service to all of our parts. And so when we enter into a field of love or heart-centered consciousness, we have to be aware. This is a radical path where nothing gets fought. Everything gets related to, everything gets praised. And there's just this little irrational fear that says, well, what if liking it or embracing it gives me more of it? Well, that's not how reality works. Right? By loving something, it doesn't multiply. It's not like spraying gremlins with water. By loving fear, we extinguish the flame. We extinguish the flames of fear's inferiority. And then fear can then dissolve into its true form of sadness, then loneliness, then despair, unworthiness, sorrow, until there is nothing but innocence, taking in the love that we dare to offer it. Just by daring to face what most people turn away from. And the more we turn towards it, the less scary it is. I love fear. I love anger. I love sadness.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I felt softening as you were guiding. It felt good. Like I made a new friend with fear.
The more we're friends with it, the less it gets on other people. The reason people's emotions get on other people is because they have more of an avoidant relationship with their feelings. And when we have a very good relationship with our feelings, then our feelings are about us and not about other people. And again, I say that with the exclusion of toxic relationships or, abuse in partnerships or any kind of abuse. Of course, that's the exception of the rule. We don't tolerate that. But it's amazing how when you have a really solid relationship with your emotions, how other people don't necessarily get blamed for how you feel the way you do.
That sounds like an amazing way to start the day, with just like affirming that today I'm going to have an amazing relationship with my emotions.
That's right. Yeah. Right. I'm going to feel my feelings.
Yeah.
Like each one, like a different child that I'm parenting. Right.
Yeah. We so often, can fall into this. Let's move into the good emotions.
Of course.
Let's feel those. But other ones are bad, but this perspective you're bringing to it, I feel like provides so much more healing.
It does. And I think that, positive states are wonderful, but so are negative states.
Yeah.
And I think that there's nothing wrong with going into a heightened or altered state of anything. Because to go into a new level of consciousness means you're going to see things the way you've never seen and feel things the way you never felt them before. And that's a great thing to explore, of course. But I think what we have to ask ourselves, a very valid question, is, am I going into a positive state as a way of avoiding something lower?
Yes.
Like, for example, if we use the term low vibration, which is, a very buzzword in the spiritual communities.
Right.
The way I like to teach low vibration is we add the letter S and make it slow vibration. And when you're actually in a lower vibrational state, you're actually in a slower vibrational state, which is more like life saying you were on a freeway, you were going 55 miles an hour, and the things on the side of the road you couldn't quite see clearly because you're going too fast. So we gave you a little bit of a traffic jam so you can see the things that are here up close and personal. And when you're done internalizing it and when you're done growing from it, then things speed up. So this idea that my low vibration is preventing me from higher experiences is a superstition. This idea that my vibration is low until I figure out how to get it high, it's a big misunderstanding. The idea is that when we're in emotional density, we're at a slower vibration because there's something about our feelings connected to wounds of our upbringing that life is asking us to look at slowly and up close. And so we slow things down so we can take a deeper look. And so we say, thank you for that opportunity. And I think we're at a time in history where we can, have techniques to make peace with our feelings. We can have techniques to transform our feelings. But to think that the whole purpose is to constantly trade up from lower to higher, it just makes us more scared of our feelings. And when I was enlightened at the grocery store, then someone bumped into my cart and bumped me out of enlightenment, and now I'm in a lower state. And I think it's just time for us to really make peace with, it's okay how I feel. And there will always be higher spiritual reasons for why I feel the way I feel. And if I think that one feeling is in the way of another, if I think I'm missing out on experiences by feeling the way I do, that might be one of the reasons why you feel that way more often, because the universe is trying to help you see through that facade, see through that superstition. And maybe the one who has so many superstitions is next in line to be loved. And so A low vibration is just a slow vibration. And once you have integrated all that it's trying to show you, it speeds back up. But to try to be the ocean that says, like, if emotions are waves in the ocean, and the ocean's like, I'm only enlightened when there aren't any waves. Or like, imagine an ocean said, when the wave comes up to its highest peak, that's a high vibration. As it starts to crash, it's a low vibration. So is the ocean supposed to keep all the waves up in the air? Could you imagine a surfer up on a tidal wave that doesn't go down? He's like, well, I guess it's a high vibrational ocean. Someone can throw me a granola bar up here. Like, that's not how life works. Right? And I think the idea that we think we're always supposed to be blissed out all the time by the virtue of comparison can make life seem pretty shitty. Versus there's a reality to life. Life can feel good, but it doesn't have to be divided into light and dark experiences. It can just be the way things are. And what we find is my relationship with the way things are is the majority of how things feel. And that's within our ability to transform by changing the way we speak to ourselves.
I love that. I just think that little saying slow vibration, because I do think it's not the feelings, it's your resistance to the feelings.
Sure.
It's you labeling them as something. And then doing that, you end up doing the same thing maybe that was your abuse or hurt as a kid, not being listened to, not being loved. So I just love that as a way, sometimes something just a little way to relate to something.
Yeah.
It really changes everything.
Even for example, like resistance. Most people will look at resistance going, oh, I'm failing my spiritual path. But from a different perspective, resistance is, if something inside of me is resisting, that means something inside of me is protecting. And if something inside of me is protecting, that means there must be something valuable that something inside of me is protecting. And so if I felt resistance, I would say, seems like you're protecting something really valuable in there. Seems like you're getting closer to sharing that with me. And then I melt that. And I melt that. And I treat my heart like it's a foster child that is living in my home for the first couple days, that came from a very abusive household. And for the first couple days is living in a closet, afraid to come out. And I am the foster father to this child. And I'm sitting outside a closet saying, you can open up whenever it's time for you to open up.
I love that. And it's making me think of, so I watched your documentary, Healed by Love, and I loved it. There was so many parts that I wrote down a quote or just was just so moved by the different things that happened. And in a couple of the parts, you were talking about how either, your assailant, if you're abused, or whoever is your parent, how they failed you, really becomes, it's like it's part of your heart. And that becomes a block, and that changes how you relate to yourself and how you micromanage yourself.
100%. We usually wind up in some subtle way taking on the characteristics of an abuser or a parent. And it usually plays out in the limbic loop in our subconscious mind. And so, like, for example, if you had a parent that said not so nice things to you, you might have an inner critic who says equally not so nice things to you. Because even though the parent represented someone who didn't treat you well, archetypally, that was someone you wanted to be loved by. And so it's a strange thing when the rehashing of a voice of a critical parent is the only way you can feel close to someone you want to be loved by. Or, like, even for example, you may not think that you have the patterning of an abuser in your life, having been abused by someone. But for example, a lot of people who are abused, a lot of victims of abuse, will either defend their abusers or more likely hide from admitting their abuse by blaming themselves. And so there are a lot of people who have been abused who live in a state of self-blame, who blame themselves for everything as a trauma response, for being dominated by people who only know how to process their pain by hiding it in other people's bodies. And so no matter where we're coming from in this path, and I speak about this very directly and very respectfully, because I take the wounds that we carry and the traumas that we're processing extraordinarily seriously. And I found that coming from a heart-centered space, I was able to help people process dire levels of trauma, to heal PTSD, to transmute and transform some of the deepest wounds we ever could know, like in the documentary, the transformation of OCD, sexual trauma, addictive patterning, right? And so what I'm talking about isn't just the nice way to go about it, and isn't nice when you talk to fear like we're Mr. Rogers, because that's my approach. But when we do it this way, we actually go so much deeper, we'll heal so much more profoundly, and we create such a relationship of transformation with our feelings that it allows us to be fully present with other people's feelings instead of trying to fast track their healing so we can feel better around them, which is a big thing.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. One thing that I heard you say in an early interview that I was just really curious about, and it has nothing to do with anything that we've talked about so far, but it's just it's just something that's fun for me. I was fascinated by the energy of Maharaji, like the feed people, serve people energy, and he passed that down to Ram Dass. And I heard you talk about this like mystical, almost enlightening experience you had when you met Ram Dass. So I was just curious if you could share on that, because I love just hearing people talk about stories like that.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I've got a few of those experiences, but with Ram Dass, so I went to a Ram Dass retreat many years ago before I started teaching. And there was all these people there who had been named by Ram Dass. And I started to, and this was like before I started really teaching. And I was like thinking to myself, ooh, I need a name. Like, I can't be left out. This dude over here looks like he owns a pizzeria in Brooklyn. Really? I need a name. And my guide, Melchizedek, who looks like Gandalf the Wizard, who talks like old timey, my son, you're already free. I said, yeah. Be that as it may. I'll declare that when I get my name. As I walked up to Ram Dass, asked for a name, and he goes like, oh, come back at the end of the retreat. And this was sometime after a stroke. We're at this beautiful retreat. Ram Dass, Krishna Das, awesome. Last day of the retreat, and I saw him kind of sitting by himself for a moment before the concert started, before Krishna Das did his kirtan. And I walked up to him. I said, look, you don't have to name me. Who knows what I was talking about a couple days ago? And he held my hand and he looked at me. And he goes, Ganesh Das. And Ganesh is the remover of obstacles, which is the work that I do. And as he said it, there was a light that shot out of his third eye from his guru, Maharaj, Neem Karoli Baba, and hit me in the head. It's called a Shaktipat. I think I've had it happen 3 times in my life. And as it hits you, it literally makes you feel like any sense of self or memories of your life, like literally just oozes out of your ears.
Wow.
And I wandered back to my seat, and the person I was there going, how did that go? And I just said, I don't know. And I sat there and did kirtan in complete what's called samadhi.
Yeah.
And I've been in samadhi for about 14 years from that experience. And it's never been interrupted. And I didn't know about samadhi till I found it myself, because I didn't study spirituality. I only study it intuitively by what I experience and what I can intuit about it. And so it was just this mind eraser where like all sense of self just completely ceases. And it's not like you're not a self. It's just that you're not lost in the identification of self. And so for me, the experience of being Matt Kahn, for an example, Matt is an experience I'm having. Who's the I having that experience? Well, that's the interesting adventure, isn't it? Yeah. But Matt's an experience I'm having. So if someone else has a problem with Matt Kahn, they're just sharing their experience with me. It doesn't strike me as like, What are you saying about that guy? How could you have a problem with me? I'm fantastic. Clearly, look how awesome my hair is. You know, like, there's no hair gel. This is just the grace of the universe. You know what I mean? Like, but it changes where like you realize, oh, someone's having an experience of me based on their filters, histories of perception. I don't have to run to defend myself or think I've done something wrong. I'm just being with someone else's experience. Kind of like someone could talk to you about you, right? And it just sounds like they're talking to you about someone else. Like they're telling you their problem and you're like, look, I don't know who this Matt Kahn guy is, but sounds like a jerk to me.
Yeah.
It's you. And so it's just interesting how when I went through that type of awakening, you can actually relate to people as yourself, but you're not lost in the defense of yourself, or you're not lost in the disharmony of yourself, and you're not at odds with yourself or other people, because you realize you are just an experience you are having of yourself, and other people are just having different experiences of that you. And it's something about that just energetically just relaxes things, you know, and and everything's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing's really wrong. And how people see things and how you see things doesn't ever have to really match up.
Oh. Yeah. You know, it's unbelievable because like, as you say all this, that softening and that remembering turns so profoundly, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I have not been struck by a thunderbolt by Ram Dass. I would love for you to strike me in my third eye right now. I can't.
That'd be great.
What's going on, right? Like maybe it was happening. But maybe it did. Maybe I will be like now 13 years of samadhi. But for like, if that isn't the case, sometimes, man, I just feel like I forget, and it's so tough when I forget, and then it's so sweet when I remember, and that's just the dance that I find myself in, you know, like forgetting, remembering, forgetting and remembering. Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting thing that might help you undermine that, because we tend to forget. Here's the Zen answer, then I'll give you something practical. The Zen answer is people forget to be heart-centered because they've decided it's something they're supposed to remember. If you set something else as I'm supposed to remember this, then you're telling your subconscious mind to intentionally forget it so you have something to remember and return to. Yeah. So that's a fun little setup.
Yeah.
But what I would ask yourself is this question, and try this out loud and just see what comes up for you. Just as we could all do it on the call, all of us.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple. But in the name of healing the forgetting to be heart-centered, I only forget when there's something somehow more important. So here's the question. What is that thing that I do that seems to be more important than being heart-centered?
Yeah.
And maybe for you, you might find, and maybe this is true, Kyle, you tell me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just something so extraordinarily simple that says, those in my family who showed me care did it through actions of concern. So maybe I only know how to care by being concerned, and then by being in a state of concern, then I find myself not being as heart-centered.
Yeah.
So what if I learn to care without concern, because concern is just unnecessary worry?
Yeah.
What if I just cared?
What came through me is that, like, the first word was strive, and then it was followed up by, like, when I do this,
right,
I will be loved.
So what if you didn't have to do that in order to be loved? What if you didn't have to prove or earn it? What if love didn't have to be earned?
I don't have to.
You don't have to.
I don't have to.
Because when you strive, you perform. And when you perform, Then you have to manage. So you have to do that anymore.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, you never did, but I mean, I strived and performed most of my life.
yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting how when we unravel these little structures,
Yeah.
right? I can't just have it. I have to earn it, or maybe that reflects back on a childhood thing that goes, oh, love was what I received by doing things correctly. It was a reward.
Absolutely. That's
Right.
definitely true.
Yeah. And so then how can I have the reward if I don't think I've done anything rewarding?
Right. So I'm out here trying to get rewarded.
Be the warrior, but just maybe be the warrior who stands for a love that no one has to earn anymore.
It's always here.
It's beautiful.
I felt great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love being a warrior myself.
Yeah.
But I also love being just all the love that I don't have to earn, that I can't earn. I'm literally all the love I couldn't possibly earn, and I don't have to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it does seem like, I had the question of, because there's these emotional patterns that you have. Like, I have a pattern, and it's with nobody except if it's somebody that I deeply care about. If I feel like they're saying something to me where, they're basically saying like I'm bad in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, instead of being able to do the thing that you're talking about, where it's like, you're just talking about this person that is having this experience.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so deep in the moment that I don't find myself having the space to not be defensive, which gives the other person exactly the opposite of what they need, which is understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like all you've talked about is almost like the underlying work of, if I'm completely in alignment with loving myself, then I probably won't have as much need to defend.
Right.
But I think I would love to just hear if you have any other wisdom about when you're in the grips of those patterns that it's like the things that like, and you say, oh, I'm not going to do this thing again.
Right.
And you're doing it again.
Oh yeah, no, I there's definitely ways we can deal with that. I love you bringing that example up. I call this technique outing yourself. So if I do it, and it doesn't happen that often for me, but I've done it by myself, and I've done it with other people. So like, I remember once I was driving down the street, and I was just having thoughts about who's the woman I'm going to marry one day, which is a fantasy I've been having since I was 12 years old.
Yeah, me too.
Like when I was 13, my friends were like, what do you think of that hot woman over there in the mall? And I'm like, who am I going to marry? Like I was like a little 40-year-old man when I was a kid. So, and I remember I was in my car and I just thought, I wonder what would happen if I just talked out loud my actual experience. And I'm in my car, no one's around me. And I'm like, and I made it into a little song. Here I am fantasizing about my wife who's not here. Oh, I want her. I want her. And I just kind of like just used my voice around no one was there to out myself in a very polite, loving way, to basically just to acknowledge my experience. And then I remember once, and this is again many years ago, I was talking to someone about something and they said something I felt kind of defensive. And I said to them, I said, oh my God, when you said it has nothing to do with you, but there was like this defensive energy in my body and it made me feel, and I just decided one day, what if I just told someone my experience? And then it opens up. And that's what people are afraid of. And they're afraid of it because it freaking works. And they're afraid of it working because if it works, there's nothing really to do. The ego doesn't have this job. And then it has really to freak out because it's like, well, now what am I going to do? Now what you're going to do is you're going to wake up and you're going to go through the awakening of consciousness. So I think what's interesting is that what we're actually afraid of is actually what works, because we're either afraid of our process or deeper, we're afraid of being without the process. that actually brought us into the most direct heart coherence within ourselves. And so if we just talk our experience out loud, like, hey, I'm just having this kind of weird feeling in my body. I'm a little tired. I know we're at lunch. And for some reason, as we're waiting for our salads, I wonder why you hate me. Isn't that just a kick in the pants?
I love that.
Isn't that just a kick in the pants? So here we are. Happy to be here with you. I don't think you hate me. But why do you hate me? And then your innocence says, thank you for allowing your voice to be my microphone and to advocate for my experience. And when you can show your ego, your innocence is a part of your ego, that I'm not afraid to say your experience out loud to give you what you need to heal, then your innocence, your ego goes, I don't have to work so hard and try to take over their experience and fight for the control that they're so willingly giving me. When I have an experience, he talks about it, helps me process it. Guess who's going to have less and less of a problem inside of me? So it's really quite a powerful thing where I think the reason people get stuck, and you could talk about, I don't want to share those feelings because someone might reject me and all these other things. Okay. But I think the reality of it is we are stuck because we don't give ourselves an option on the table. There could be 10 options on the table, and most people will not even have the option that says, just say out loud what you're experiencing. Most people think healing is everything but that choice. I'm here to say nothing heals you but that choice.
I could not love that more. And, I'm remembering that this was something that I've got good at doing, and I have not been doing it in this, like for, I don't know, a whole chunk of time. But it really works. I feel like it disarms probably the other person because you just like, this is actually just what's going on with me. And then it gives you some space.
It does. It's so funny.
And I'm going to sing it. I'm just going to
sing it. Singing makes it actually even more relatable to yourself. Makes it funnier. Sometimes what I'll do, like I'm a funny guy, is I sing it, and then every line I just kind of embellish it more. Like I call that technique out crazying your ego.
Oh.
Like I'll give you an example. So when I I've lived by myself for a little bit, and when we all as adults many years ago, we start living on our own. Mm-hmm. And when you're an adult, newly formed adult, and you're living on your own, it's like that. It's kind of like that feeling when you first drive a car. Yes. Like, we're adults. We've driven cars for years, and we forget how it feels when you first get into a car. And you're like, oh my God. That car. Remember when you first were an adult and you were living on your own, and it was like that? I got to check my front door, make sure it's locked like 5 times because make sure no boogeyman come in. I remember when I first started living by myself many, many years ago, and I used to have these fears of like, I was afraid of everything. And I remember I was lying down in bed, and my ego had this feeling of like, what if someone breaks in the middle of the night? Right. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, and I have such a loving relationship with myself, and I said, what if we just slept on top of the covers just to make it easier for them? Like, what if I sleep in a crime scene position just to be ready? And my ego like had this reaction like, you're nuts. And guess what happened to that fear? It stopped and never came back. Because I validated it. And then I said, and then the thing about ego is the ego likes to throw things out there, but it doesn't know how to engage. So when you politely let it into the deep waters, like, oh, is that your fear? Let's talk about it lovingly. I love you. And let's talk about what would happen if that happened. And the ego goes, I don't want to talk about that. I do. I do. And then what happens is the ego, as it kind of relaxes, what it realizes is I don't have to embellish things to get his attention. I don't have to pretend things are what they're not just to be seen and heard. And so even though I'm telling a kind of a funny little way of doing it, the reality of it is it heals this part of us that says, I need to, on some level, amplify and embellish reality so to really prove that I have something worth addressing. And it's kind of a smokescreen. And when you're not afraid to go there with yourself, and in just a very loving way, not an antagonistic way, not in a sarcastic way, but in a genuine way of like, you're afraid someone's going to break in here and hurt us. Let's talk about it. What does it look like? When will it happen? How will it happen? I'm interested.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the ego goes, I was trying to use that to push you away. That doesn't work with me. And then all of a sudden that drops. And then I say to myself, what's really going on? And then it's like a sleeping young little infant in my heart. And again, sometimes with humor, sometimes a little theatrics, just to break up the monotony, but always loving, always caring. Just like when you're a parent. Parents can sometimes be ridiculous. And sometimes parents are ridiculous just to kind of throw their kids off for a second and go, what are they doing? But it's all with the purpose of doing the one thing that love is here to do. And that's to make truth easier to face instead of something to turn away and run away from or bypass. And so love is how we learn to relate to the intimacy of truth. We can be afraid, we can be scared, we can be in resistance, we can be jealous, we can be angry, we can be mental, we can be any of those things. Can you be the one that loves what is only being used as an attention-seeking mechanism for the parts that want your attention but are afraid to ask, that want your attention and don't know if they're worthy enough to receive it? Can we be the ones that love ourselves more, not less?
Man, this has been amazing. And we'd love to just give you this opportunity to tell our collaborative about all the amazing things you're doing. Like, how can we support you? That was so healing.
Thank you.
Tell us about your book. Tell us about any way that we can support Matt Kahn, man, because you're a gift.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My new book, All for Love, The Transformative Power of Holding Space, is available. It's officially published on June 21st. And when you purchase this book at any major retailer, if you go to my website, mattkahn.org/love, that's mattkahn.org/love, and you'll see on that page, it will ask you to enter your receipt number for the book purchase and your email address. And we will send you instant access to my new documentary, Healed by Love, that Leo was talking about. And you get it as a free download with the purchase of my new book. And the movie is not exactly the book, but the movie was created to deepen the healing of the book. And so with the free documentary, with this book that I wrote that is the most personal sharing of any book I've ever written, the deepest dive I've ever written, one of the most incredible literary works that I'm the most proud of birthing as a 4-time best-selling author. I am so excited for all beings in the world to absorb all the wisdom and heart coherence in this book, and more importantly, use it as a practical roadmap of how we can connect with ourselves more clearly, how can we relate to others in an ever-divided world where we don't have to find middle ground in order to connect. We don't have to get caught in this, I'm for this, you're against that. How do we really connect with ourselves and each other in this ever-divided world? And literally my new book is a roadmap, and all the stories that I tell of such deep transformation mirrors the healing that occurs in every person reading the book, who will then go through an even deeper healing with the Healed by Love documentary. So please go to mattkahn.org/love and join us in bringing this brand new book into the world at a time when the world truly needs more love, not less.
Thank you so much. And this has been such a powerful session with you. I'd love for us to just end by going into the heart.
Yeah.
Really radiating some more gratitude. Almost do exactly what we did at the beginning, but on the tail end, if that's cool.
Sure.
Yeah. So if everyone could focus your attention in the area of your heart and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart, your chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Try a pace of 5 seconds on the in-breath, 5 seconds on the out-breath, in and out through the heart. Now, as everyone's breathing in and out through the heart, let's just give gratitude for all that amazing wisdom that Matt shared with us today. For new friends, for this community, for anything you feel like giving gratitude for. Just breathe in and out through your heart and turn that gratitude all the way up. As Matt said, it is divinity remembering itself.
Hmm.
Yeah, you want to add anything?
Yeah, if we could just breathe in love and compassion for ourselves and breathe out love and compassion for the HCC and for everybody in the entire world.
Matt, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. Let's play with this affirmation. Perhaps these are the unexpected words you've never said to yourself. You are never too much for me. You are never too much for me. You are never too much for me. I am the love that you are. 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 And then we bring these two together. You are never too much for me because I am the love that you are. You are never too much for me because I am the love that you are. You are never too much for me because I am the love that you are. You are never too much for me because I am the love that you are.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. We love you all.